Yeah, good evening. My name is Ashar. I am a doctor by profession. I did my MBBS. I am a master's in healthcare administration. I have a postgraduate certification in emergency medicine, and I'm also a PhD. And I'm also a warrior of mental illness. So I want to bring to you my story where the mess which I created with my life is now my message to the world. So, so my story begins with a happy and nurturing childhood in an inclusive and secular community of JNU. And I grew up in an environment that celebrated diversity, encouraged open-mindedness, and I learned the importance of empathy and acceptance from a young age. So does anyone know what is the difference between empathy and compassion? So Mahatma Gandhi said that be the change you want to see in the world. So empathy is something, you feel somebody's pain, that is empathy. And compassion is you do something about it. You take action to elevate that pain. So I grew up in JNU, which was an open environment. It was fun growing up in JNU. It was an all-inclusive environment where I had a happy childhood, spending time within those dhabas and the various places in JNU. Could you go to the next slide? So that's me celebrating Holi with my friends in JNU. We had an inclusive childhood, and it didn't really matter who you were, what your identity was. And India was changing at that point of time. This very social fabric of our country was taking a downturn towards communalism. And that's where my story begins. So I was raised by a left liberal father who was a respected professor in JNU. I was immersed in an atmosphere of academic inquiry and social consciousness. I was committed to progressive values, liberal thoughts of justice and equality. And the fact that I was a Muslim didn't even matter then. And the social fabric in India was changing at that point of time. Could you go to the next slide, please? So that's me going out of my comfort zone to study medicine. I've changed a lot from those days. I was quite smart and good looking at that point of time. So that's me going for studying medicine. So at the age of 18, I embarked on a new chapter in my life, leaving the familiar streets of Delhi to pursue a career in medicine. So the transition was an educational journey, but it was a life-altering experience. Because the very fabric of secular India was changing at that point of time. Walls were being built between communities in their minds, thoughts, and actions. And that's where I came out of my comfort zone. I was confronted with the harsh reality of bigotry and the growing communal divide that had begun to afflict the very fabric of India. So I witnessed divisive forces at play in society, and I was emotionally disturbed and confused about my identity. And I fell in love at that point of time, and it was an interfaith relationship. And the person was from a different cultural and religious background. And I was an emotional, sensitive soul, and I used to write poetry. So I wrote some poems during that time. So one of the so I want to make this speech putting bits and pieces of my poetry and shairi. So this is one of the poem I wrote. It was a long distance relationship. And this poem has been published in my book, The Rainbow Basket. And the poem goes, do you remember the time I chatted with you on the net? I often wonder why people do this with someone they have never seen or met. Maybe to tell us I am human and you are too. But behind that facade, the nick we use is the reality of which we give no clue. Who you are, where you are, when your eyes stare on the lit screen. Why you are, when you are, were you the face in the moonlight I had seen? You may say you may be the stranger with the evil eyes. You may say you may be the devious type with your blatant lies. As I type this, the thought in my mind also did cross. But I leave this all behind because I think I know you from a time so long. Maybe you're the one for whom that poet wrote that beautiful song. I think I know the butterflies you chased. I think I know the heartbreaks you faced. Believe me, so you may say, I hardly know you, so please go slow. And I ask you, do you see or know the God you all the time bore? It is this trust, this faith, this electronic wave that bound me to you. You know, they have always said, love is blind. Now I know why it's so true. So these were some of the poems that I wrote during that time. And, and as it happened, because of the changing times, it didn't work out. And it could not reach the truest conclusion. And then I started expressing myself in poetry and also shairi. Urdu is my second language besides Hindi and English. And I started writing, and I wanted to fall in love and actually fell, and I was shattered and broken. Please go to the next slide. So that's when I encountered mental health issues. I was overwhelmed, depressed, nervous, uncertain. I was lonely and shattered. And I was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, which is a combination of bipolar and schizophrenia. And at that point of time, me in my medical school, the year was 2002. That's when the communal divide was boiling in its core, and it was the time when the Gujarat riot happened. And I was caught amidst the conflict during my medicine. I was witness to the horrors and the violence of the tumultuous times. And I felt fear and anxiety about my own family's sake, my family's safety. And it was very worrying. And it was the darkest period of my life, and I was very vulnerable. And I was diagnosed as a post-traumatic stress disorder and also diagnosed as schizoaffective. Back in 2002, I was hospitalized and on heavy medication. Can you go? This is one of my sketches. So I've been on medication ever since. There has been bouts of lows and highs in my life. And finally, I found myself working through counseling, peer support, family support, group support. And I also did a lot of self-help, mindfulness, self-awareness, and trying to find structure in my life, which I did later on. So with those ups and downs, I was still able to complete my education. I did my MBBS. I am a medical doctor. I did my master's in health administration, and I'm a PhD. And currently I'm teaching as an assistant professor in a medical school in Delhi. And then through these practices of neuro-linguistic programming, mindfulness, and self-awareness, leading a structured life, I rediscovered myself and my happy hormones, as they say. So I call it the dose of happiness. The dopamines, the oxytocins, the serotonins, and the endorphins. Could you go to the next slide, please? So this is me with my dose of happiness. I'm married now. I have a son. I have a wife, and my sister is there, their children, and my mom. So I'm with my dose of happiness. So, making sense of my mess, At that point of time, as the psychologist here just put it, it's a transpersonal psychology or a spiritual experience. I don't know what it was, but it was about finding myself amidst the turmoil and conflict. And I realized that my hallucinations, now looking back, were extrasensory perceptions, being a sensitive person that I was. And I learned that these were my intuitions, my own judgments about things, good or bad, and I now learn to deal with it. I started reading on self-help and personal development, practiced mindful breathing, self-awareness, NLP, and the good thing was that I got married to my wife, who's a very structured person. And structure in life, especially family life, is very important. And that kind of helped me lead a routine life, you know, a life where schedule is very important, sleep is very important, and their, you know, times to do things has to be in alignment with whatever work you're doing. So I now work as a professor in a university, and then I founded an NGO which is known as Divine Global ISHK Foundation, and ISH stands for love. So I have kind of transcended, you know, the hate that I faced in my life, and trying to, you know, live a life where I could elevate my karma to bring love and joy to people in the world. So I believe my breakthroughs, my breakdowns became my breakthroughs. You know, what I thought were full stops in the story of my life were mere commas. What I thought were the endings were actually stepping stones to new beginnings. And I started living with empathy and compassion. I learned to forgive and forget. So that's me with my NGO. You know, we are working for the community. It's called the Divine Global ISHK Foundation, ISH signifying love, and we are talking about universal love here. And that's me with my teammates. We hold medical camps. You know, I started writing. You know, writing was something which was very close to my heart. I published books. I have 7 books now. One of them was a book of poetry, The Rainbow Basket, from which I read that poem. And another one is Peacemakers. So Peacemakers is very close to my heart. It's coming from the heart. It talks about how communities can commune with humility with each other, you know, irrespective of the race, religion, creed, language barriers, or culture. So that is one of the novels which is available on Amazon if anyone wants to take a look. It's a fiction novel. So I want to create a society, leaders who become peacemakers of the world. You know, the project Aman that we are working on through our NGO encourages people to become peacemakers of the world, to be conflict resolution leaders, to propagate love for humanity and collective consciousness of global citizens. You know, we are on a mission to build like-minded, large-hearted peacemakers who will strive to make our world a better place, to create a world where everyone is treated with dignity and respect, bring an end to communal, racial, religious, language, and cultural bigotry, and bring about a society which communes with humility instead. So this is one of the poems I wrote from the Rainbow Basket, which I want to recite here. So it talks about an apple tree, and there are many people fighting for that apple, you know. So 3 men stood by the red apple tree to feast on the juicy fruit pendulous in the breeze. They stood at a distance with their sight on the prize. Orangey, red, green, they searched to quench their hunger on the rise. Little did the apple tree know the plot, for when the apples fell, they scuffed and fought for the first apple that fell on the ground. But there were many still sweet and round. 3 men were gone, and the apples lie strewn by the wind in the storm, but none too soon. For 3 men were neither friends nor foe, but the hunger had made them fight to the core. The men had satiated on the apples of the apple tree, but the tree still stands in glee, feeding the hungry for free. So, thank you very much, everyone. I would like to end on a small shairi that I wrote. You know, people who are struggling with mental illnesses, these are, you know, mere hiccups in your life. They are greater things to look at. You can overcome whatever bad karma that has happened in your life, and you can elevate your thinking and reach and live enriching lives. And I would like to end my talk on a small shairi which says that उम्मीदों के दिए जला के चल, रंजो गम न हो कभी अब तो संभल, लौ की आरजू है तो मशालों में जल, वो रोशनी जो कभी बुझ न सके, ऐसे लालटेनों में उमड़ के उबल, ठहरा दे वक्त, बदल दे ये पल, जो रोशन कर दे अंधेरों को कल। थैंक यू वेरी मच।